Hey everybody, I'm Zee Garcia, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a vicious two-player game of combat and exploration. This is Claustrophobia 1643. This game is a reprint slash reworking of a game that came out about 10 years ago called simply Claustrophobia. In that game, just like in this one, you've got two forces, the humans and then the demonic forces of hell, going against one another, with the human players finding these caverns that lead down into hell and exploring those, trying to contain the invasion of these hellish forces. And so in the reprint here, there's going to be a lot more content. It's all new artwork. It's going to have more scenarios. You're going to have more miniatures, all of this stuff. So, spoiler alert, by the way, I do still own the original Claustrophobia. Therefore, I really like it. So, we're going to go ahead and dive into this new one. I'll give you an overview of how the game works. We'll come on back, and I'll tell you what I think of this one. Here I'm going to be showing you a game already in progress, a few turns in. In this scenario, the human player is trying to explore the caverns and find one specific tile that's been shuffled into the bottom four over here of the stack, this pre-prepared stack. And if they find that, they are going to set off an explosion there and they win the scenario. And the other result is going to be a win for the demon player. So this is what the board looks like right now. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through what one round is going to look like. We'll take a look at the human player's turns and the few phases they go through, and then the demon player's turn, and then you'll have an idea of the general flow of the game. The human player has four characters in this scenario. They have the Redeemer, their leader of sorts. They have two condemned scouts, one of them with a grenade, and then they have this condemned brute holding a steel shield to give them better protection. The player is going to roll as many dice as they have characters, and they are going to assign those dice to the characters, one to each. That's a preparation phase. However, in the last turn, the human Redeemer here triggered a special gift that they have on one of their activation lines called Assembly. That means they're going to roll 2 extra dice, and from those 6, they will pick the 4 they want to assign. So they roll these dice. These are simply 1 through 6, and then they take these and assign them to the different characters. By doing so, you're going to activate one line to be taken into account for this turn, as well as the demon player's reactionary turn to this. And then at the beginning of the next human player's turn, then they'll remove these and re-roll and so forth. The die selection is going to give you 3 stats. It's going to give you movement, how far the human players can move, normally 1, sometimes 2. The number of dice they would roll to attack, and then the defense that must be beaten in order for them to take wounds. As you can see, we've already got this condemned scout has 3 wounds on them, marked with these little tokens here. And our brute also has 3 wounds on them already. Another thing that happens is, of course, if you activate a line that has a gift assigned to it, that's going to be activated, and some of the characters also have lines which give them cards. The human player has a few of these cards that have 2 uses. They can play them for some special effect. So say in this case, for example, whoever they give this card to has +1 move. They can run. Or they can use the other side to change a die value. When assigned, they can just turn it into another number. So my player here is going to select for these. They rolled 6, so I'm going to give the 6 to this one right here. I'm going to give one of these 3s to this character here. I'm going to select a 1 and give it to this character here. And I'm going to select another one of the 3s and put it over here. These 2 are simply removed. And now I may play cards. I can give 1 card to each of these people. I also have, once in the game, the ability to use this token brought in by the Redeemer to pump someone and also possibly heal them of 1 of their hits. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to take a look at these here, and I'm going to assign, let's see, I'm going to not use either one of these. The run is good, the ability to move an extra step, but I'm going to hold on for now. Once that choice is done, then I'll take a look here. And this has assembly, which means I'll roll those 2 extra dice later on. I'll just put them there. So I triggered that again. This line here gives me another one of these cards. It's a small deck that I'll draw them from. This one gives me one. And this one gives me one. I rolled so many dice, I was able to manipulate them to get exactly what I wanted. Now don't forget, by now the window to play these already came and went, so I'll use them next turn. And now I get to activate all of these people one at a time. Every character has 2 things they can do. You can move and attack. Or you can attack and then move. That attack is really an action you can take. That action is normally attack. But a few things do say that you can take an action with them. For example, the grenade here would substitute the place of taking an attack and allows me to throw the grenade on an adjacent tile and, explode the monsters in that space and really anything else that's in that space. And so we're going to go ahead and start. We have over here 2 humans with 3 troglodytes. We have my Redeemer is way down there. He's trying to run away. And we've got here a hellhound with this brute standing in his face. So we're going to start there, and I'll show you how combat works. That brute is this one right here. I take a look at his stat. He rolls 3 dice for combat. These dice are standard 6-sided dice, except that the 6 is a skull, and it means it always hits. Now, the Hellhound has statistics that I'll show you later on. I'm going to roll to try to match or beat his shield. And his shield last turn was, let's take a look over here. It was 3, so it was very easy to hit. So I'm going to go ahead and roll. And I got, look at that, 3 hits indeed. That is enough to wipe out this Hellhound. Once the Hellhounds are defeated, you'll remove it from the board. And in fact, the demon player removes it entirely from the game. There are 2 Hellhounds. Each one can only be summoned once per game. So this is removed. And then that character can move. And that character is going to move, they can move only once. Yes, and they will move in here, where these troglodytes are, but they cannot attack again. They'll stay right there. And so this character's activation is done. Then I'll do all the other ones. Again, you can attack or move. The troglodytes you can attack them as a group, so they're usually very easy to kill. And their shield is also 3, but a single hit will remove them, as opposed to the Hellhounds and the main demon for the scenario. They have an amount of life points, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and keep on moving here. My shield gives me +1 defense for this. I already told you what the grenade does, and you understand by now how the activation for them works. So once I've activated all 4, we switch sides, and it'll be the other player's turn, the demon player, to have their go. So here's everything the demon player has access to. They've got their main demon for this scenario, the Scourge, the 2 Hellhounds, and then this central board managing a few effects and the troglodytes. The first thing they'll do is remove their dice, unless they are loaded and ready to finalize some effect, which you could build over a few turns. These will come back over here. Also, this Hellhound was actually eliminated, so we can remove that board. That's gone. And slide this down a little bit. Now these are usually the same ones, especially over here for the troglodytes and the Hellhounds, but the demon, just like all the other ones, they open up like this, and you can remove that and use whichever one this scenario calls for. And there's a bunch of these characters, all with their appropriate miniatures, okay? But the one we are using is the Scourge. You just slide that in there, close it up, make sure everything lines up, and you are good to go. Another thing I did not mention while the humans were taking their turn, by the way, is exploration. As you move, the humans could step into a new location. We reveal a new tile from the top of the stack, and it is the demon player who chooses how to orient that tile, as long as it's a legal placement. So, demon player is going to roll 3 dice, and they are going to do a very similar turn to what the humans do, with 1 step in between, okay? So there's the preparation step, rolling dice, assigning them. And then before we get to the activation step, there's 1 phase called threat, which is when a few cards are going to be played. The demon player has their own deck of cards here. But also when we summon new creatures onto the board, usually a bunch of troglodytes, possibly one of the special characters here. So I've gone ahead and rolled. These dice go 1, 2, and 3, both in red and in white. And then I'll go ahead and use them. Each of these spots has a different trigger and a different ability. So for example, this spot over here lets me put up to 3 dice there. They all have to be the same color is the rule. And then for each one, I'm going to get 3 of this material here that is the summoning power I have for my creatures. This other die I could put here, try to make my troglodytes faster, make them frenzied, which means they re-roll misses. I could put it over here and draw more of those cards. I could put it over here and over here with 7 or more, 8 or more being the trigger, and that's going to let me change and bend the summoning rules, the threat phase rules for bringing baddies in. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one. I'll put it right here, and I'm just going to leave it there prepped. It's only a 3 right now, and so eventually when I get to 7, I'll be able to trigger that. I'll trigger this by sliding them down, and I'm going to get some of these tokens. I get 6 in this case. So 1, 2, 3, and another 3 with these large ones. Now I'm going to do my threat phase, in which I may play some of these cards, and I could summon the demons there. So I'm going to go ahead and do this card here. This is going to allow me to choose a demon or a hellhound to get +1 move, +1 attack, +1 defense until the beginning of the following threat phase. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it on my demon here, my main demon. All right. He's going to have that power on him. I'll save the other card, and then I'm going to summon these monsters. So, to summon the troglodytes, it costs 1, hellhounds 3, main demon 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll bring in this guy into play, this monstrosity of a demon here. Now the rule for summoning is very simple. They have to come onto a tile that is A, empty of enemies, and B, has an unexplored opening. So this starting tile is perfect for that. So they'll come in there. I'm going to spend 2 more and throw him a couple of troglodyte friends, like so. And then I'm going to save the rest of my points here for later. That's it for my threat phase. We go to my activation phase. My troglodytes can move and attack, or attack and move. Same deal. And I have a couple over here already. So for example, these 2 could try to attack the brute there. I would roll the dice. I would again check my attack versus his shield, remembering that he actually brought a steel shield with him, so he's a little bit tougher to take out. I could bring in my main demon here, as long as I'm not going above the capacity rule printed in the corners of the tiles as to how many characters there can be per side. Mostly it's 3. So 3 per one side, 3 per the other side. There's a few narrow corridors, and there's a few wide open rooms, which are 1 and 5, respectively. Okay? And then I would roll. So my main demon, for example, rolls 4 dice and would, apply the hits, counting their shield. There we go. That's probably a couple of hits there. 2 5s would do it. This player would assign wherever they want to their hits on their own player board, canceling lines of activation. Those lines of activation, if later on they have to activate with a die, that line, they cannot move, cannot attack, and their shield is a base 3. Not very good. So they have to watch out for that. Once this is all done and I've activated everything that I've got in play, then we will go back to the human player's turn and they'll do their thing. And upon my return, I'll remove these dice. That one stays there prepped and ready. And I roll 3 more, continue building on this, okay? Many of my troglodytes will die. They just very easily come off the board. The main demon I'll only be able to summon twice in the game. So hellhounds once, main demon twice. If it's killed and this one happens to take 3 hits, I remove it, but I can bring it back 1 time. And when it's killed again, then it is gone completely. And we continue taking turns back and forth like this until either the human player finds that tile and they bomb it, or I eliminate them all, or simply keep them from doing so. So there you go. That's a general idea of how the game works. There's a lot more going on, statistics, more powers on here, the ability to bodyguard each other, the ability to re-roll things. Again, a lot of little rules and so forth, but that gives you a general flow of how the game works, okay? Don't forget as well, some tiles have special powers when you walk in there, or just generally special powers. All right, so let's go back up top. Let me tell you what I think of it. All right, so there it is. Hopefully that made sense. Let's go ahead and dive right in, okay? I'll just say right off the bat, as I said in the intro, I really like the original game, and this is yet another fantastic version of the game. That makes the whole thing a little more cohesive, because as the expansions for the original one came out, they lost a little bit of that cohesion. This one, of course, is a product that encompasses much of that. Not all of that, but much of that. And it all looks the same. It all is, follows the exact same guidelines. It's a little cleaner overall as a product. So let's dive right in. In fact, my biggest positive for this printing of the game is replayability. The replayability here is through the roof. You are going to get 20 scenarios in this box. The original game had 6. And yes, there were more in expansions, but again, this is kind of like a greatest hits compilation of those scenarios, as well as some new ones, So that is just incredibly fantastic. You compound that with the fact that there's a bunch of tiles with special powers, the fact that the forces are going to start in different, sort of shapes and modes at the beginning of each of those scenarios. In one, you might have grenades. In another one, the Redeemer has different gifts they can activate. The Demon player has different demons they can summon. So there's a ton of replayability here. Everything else I really like as well. The theme. Yes, it's very dark, but it's very well implemented. And I find it to be cinematic and captivating in many ways. The aesthetics here are fantastic. Everything looks great. Those hinged boards for the characters are just incredible. I would be surprised if we don't see those used in something else very, very soon. They are just great. A really neat idea to give you places in which to put your dice and tokens without them having, without having them slide around. Game length, still incredibly punchy. This game's about 45 minutes to an hour. Some scenarios might be a little bit longer than that, but by dungeon crawl standards, that is super quick. That's basically a filler dungeon crawler, right? And I appreciate that. I appreciate that this game, from round one, you are just going at it. It's tense all the way through. Ease of play. In the new one, they've taken a lot of care with, the phrasing of timing, that sort of thing, the manipulation of the dice. You put them there, but then you slide them down to actually activate them. They've done a lot of that to, I guess, simplify, that there are no mistakes, that there are no issues with that timing, that when everything should be triggering. That leads to a lot of symbology now, and so I'll say it took me 2-3 games to finally feel really comfortable with that new system. Now, part of that might be because I'm bringing old habits into it from the original game, and I do appreciate that everything is spelled out for you. If you did not move these dice down and trigger that, they don't clear off. There's all those things. So I like that, but it did take some getting used to. Finally, tactics and strategy and luck. I give this a big thumbs up, but you have to understand that it is a dungeon crawl game in 45 minutes. There is a lot of luck in this. There's a bunch of dice rolling. There is a lot of, thinking you're going to do fine with one big roll, buffing your character up, and then rolling and just not hitting. Those things happen. Now they give you, in this new printing, there's that little deck of white cards for the human player that's going to let you manipulate some of your activation dice and give you new little boosts and so forth. That's nice. I like that rule change. It gives you more to do as the human player. But you have to go into it knowing that, yes, this game has a solid amount of luck. There's tactics, there's reacting, there's solid choices, but luck as well. Overall, I think it's a fantastic product. I think they just knocked it out of the park with this one. It's an epic production befitting this game, I think. And so this one's going to get a strong seal of excellence from me. Just superb two-player game that gives me specifically a lot of punch, a lot of game in a short period of time in a digestible format for two players. You know, a tug of war that's really incredible. So there you go again, seal of excellence from me for the new Claustrophobia 1643 here. Thanks for checking this out with me, everybody. I'm Zee Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com.